Ruona here with JConcepts, and this is my entry into the JConcepts garage. This is my personal Team Associated B4.2 factory team buggy. Not much to say about the car kit itself. It's extremely successful out there on the racing circuit. This is a world championship buggy many times over, but it's one that's one of the funnest to modify and accessorize because of all the accessories available from JConcepts for this buggy. One of the first things that I like to add to this buggy is we like to add on the finisher body. You know, this is a body we created for the IFMAR World Championships in 2011 in Finland. It's got that finisher name because of that location, and really sets this vehicle off, and I think it's the best performing body you can get for the Team Associated vehicle here. Then the second item, which comes included with the body, is the 6.5-inch high clearance rear wing, which is pretty much a standard feature on many vehicles out there now that are kind of sampling our design here of this wing. But you know, it's the original high clearance wing that comes with this body. So that's one of the biggest upgrades you can make as far as the aero package goes on this vehicle, is adding the finisher body, the high clearance wing, and you know, those two items alone create a nice looking and a great working Team Associated B4 vehicle here. Kind of moving into the center line of the car, this is kind of where we get into our carbon fiber and the aluminum options. And I'd say to start off with, the number one thing that we like to add is the aluminum steering belt cranks, which you know, these are all aluminum anodized blue. We got the silver chamfered edging on. There's some laser etched logo with JC on it, so you know, you're getting that brand authenticity. Plus, it's a really high glamour looking product, so it looks good on the car. Plus, there's the big time function of having you know, a one-piece belt crank system, is that you don't have that servo saver, which is a positive and a negative. It's a negative if you have a low power servo or all plastic gear servo, but if you're racing this car, you're going to have a high grade servo, which is what we race with. That's why we go without a servo saver. And the reason we do that is because the servo saver normally works in two parts, and it flexes in the middle, and we lose steering because of that. So with the aluminum one-piece unit, it really beefs up the steering, and you get a direct feel from steering from the servo to the belt cranks that way, and there's no lag, no giving in the steering, which gives you really solid steering characteristics on the track. So, you know, that first upgrade, we normally reach for that aluminum belt crank. From there, what we do is, you know, I recommend going to the rear and adding the aluminum rear wing mounts. Now, the B4 has a really nice, nicely designed plastic version that the kit comes with. What we've designed here is an aluminum version, which for us has proved to be really durable, more durable than the plastic unit because of the obvious construction and the material. But it also it gives a really solid footing for the wing itself. So as a performance side of this, you don't have to worry about a lot of flexing going on down here where the wing is mounted. So the wing is really mounted very sturdy now with the aluminum. Plus, it's an item that you can add that's you know, going to help you in a situation where you might break a plastic wing mount. You know, now you got a really solid aluminum base. You know, no more crashes that take the wing and the mounts right off the vehicle. So that's the second thing we recommend. As you kind of move down the line here, the next thing that we'll get into is the motor plate. Now, this is something that it's a direct hit anytime you land on the rear of the car. So if you're jumping this car and you land, you know, on the rear motor plate here, what can happen is you can easily bend your motor plate. It turns the motor in the car pretty soon. Your vehicle gets louder, and the mesh, the gears isn't right. And you know, that's just kind of a nuisance. It's a wear and tear item. The reason we wanted to make a motor plate, we wanted to have a 100% machined motor plate, something that was flat to begin with, and we offering it in a really thick piece of aluminum here, so it's extremely durable. And then the way we've lightened it, because obviously people are still concerned about weight, is we added this honeycomb shape with the mill pockets throughout the motor plate. So we've kind of strategically placed those cutouts around geometry in the plate, so it still mounts well to the transmission case, and the motor still mounts with no restrictions from the milling. So what you get is a durable, lightweight motor plate. Definitely a recommendation for the B4. And that's not to say that you can't bend any aluminum parts. You hit anything hard enough, everything has a limit. But we've had really good success with the rear end here in terms of the wing mounts and the motor plate. So, kind of staying in the rear end of this vehicle, what you can see here is we have the Reedy 7.5 motor in here. And one of the things that we've added to this motor on my personal car is our aluminum end belt cover. So what this is it's a little longer, 100% machined aluminum part here, and what it comes with is we have a tie here where you can screw on the sensor wire holder. And the reason why that's important is because the tendency for the sensor wire on these motors is to kind of hang down, and sometimes they get near the rear drive axles, they get near the ground when you're racing, and sometimes they'll pull right out. I've had that happen when I'm racing. The sensor wire falls out of the motor from something, and pretty soon you're stopped. We wanted to eliminate that with the sensor wire holder. And then the 2-for-1 here is that you get the aluminum end belt cover, which acts a little more as a heat sink with the aluminum properties transferring directly from the motor and the can through to the end belt cover. So you get a little better cooling, and you also get a nice trick look with the machined surface. And then we have a nice arrow that indicates where the timing should be. And the screws that comes included with are nice 2mm. They use a 2mm wrench to adjust them, which makes things a lot more precise, and you can get the adjustment exactly the way you want. No stripping the screws and that type of thing, no frustration, and just a nice overall package you can put on this Reedy motor, and just kind of really secures up the rear end of the car. And that kind of takes care of our rear end, the center portion here. We move into the next thing that I would recommend, which is our front suspension brace. The typical thing on the B4 is the plastic front bulkhead has two extruded small little bosses that stick out of the end of the front bulkhead. And the stock front suspension brace actually bolts to those extrusions. But the small screws that they use that come with the kit, the 256s, can kind of strip or pull out of the bulkhead. And a very common pop-up or an upgrade that drivers do at the races is they take and they tap the bulkhead in 440, and they put a 440 button head screw right through the front brace, right into the front suspension mount, and they have a more secure adjustment. The screws don't come loose near as often, and it just feels much more rigid and a better assembly when it's put together. So that's why we created a new front suspension brace. We wanted to be able to allow the customer to upgrade to the 440 screw, and what that takes is they take their screw, they thread into the plastic bulkhead, you back it out, you put our hinge pin brace right on the front, and you put the 440s right in, and it's a counterboard right in the front, so the butt heads are nice and flush on the inside. We've marked the front brace, with the JConcepts.net logo. These are anodized blue on my car here, and we also have them available in black, so kind of available to match the different color schemes people might have available. So, that's a great item. Might not think it's a hop-up, but it really is because of the screws and the ability to sort of improve the front end. We move into the center part here, which is I'd say more of a glamour feature would be our Monroe battery brace. This is again 100% is the genuine carbon fiber material. They're really popular appearance and look that we have in RC with carbon fiber, but we have our own design brace here, which works really well, in between your connections here. For your speed control, you can run the battery. We prefer it in the rear position so that all the connections happen that way. And then we top it off with our JConcepts thumb nuts, which can be, you can use the rear wheel wrench, I'll call it, which would be on the B4. And we use that here on the front. I believe it's a 11/32 wrench, which you can use on these to secure your battery brace down. Plus you have that, that JC branded look, and you have that, that high-tech, really glamorous look of the machine thumb nut itself.